Hi. Today I'm going to be doing the mental health on Booktube tag. I plan to do this week because the mental healthathon starts next week, and I thought it'd be a very nice introduction to the mental healthathon to do this tag. So I was tagged by Kaz over from Catsandcamera. I will link her down below, and I'm going to answer these questions as best as I can. I've read through them. Quite honestly, I'm just going to be winging it for a lot of them because I don't really know how to answer some of these questions. So, the first question is, why do you read books about mental health or featuring characters living with mental illness? And honestly, I don't. I don't seek it out. If it happens, then great, I'll read all about it, but I don't actively seek out books about mental health or characters with mental illness because, to be honest, it's something I do for a job. I do this as part of my career. When I go to a book, I want to read something a bit different from my daily life. And I'm not saying in any way that it's not important, because it really is, and there are so many great pieces of work. And if I come across a piece of work unintentionally that features a character with mental illness, or a book that heavily includes mental health, that's great. I'm all for it. But I don't actively seek it out because I think I see it enough in my everyday personal life. I tend to just go for something a bit different when it comes to reading books. So question 2 is, I have notes, sorry. I can't remember all these words. So question 2 is, what aspects of mental health or mental illness do you wish were discussed more in books? And quite honestly, I have a few for this. I have a few comments. The first thing that I really think should be discussed a lot more is positive relationships with counselling and therapy. Because as a therapist, there is nothing I hate more than reading a book where people have a very bad relationship when it comes to therapy. They go, they hate it, everything's the worst part, and it's usually just, I've been forced to come. And a lot of therapeutic relationships are not like that. There are some, granted, that people don't willingly want to be there and they don't like it. And, you know, it's good that that is represented. But a high majority of counselling and therapy relationships between the counsellor and the client is entirely... what's the word? Is really typically quite strong. There's typically quite a nice bond between them and they have a good rapport there, and a lot of the time they have such a good bond and relationship going, and there's such a deep level of trust that it tends to work quite well. Obviously not for everybody, and sometimes even if it doesn't work, they find a mature way to discuss it and say, I don't think this is working for me. I would rather see somebody else, or I would rather not come to therapy. It's not a big drama of, I hate it, but of course I'm going to go because I'm being forced to, because a lot of the time that is not the case. If the individual attending therapy doesn't say something themselves, often the counsellor will recognise that the individual is not there willingly and say, I don't think this is going to work because it's not the best environment for either of us if you are not wanting to be here. And I don't think that is represented enough. Also, I don't think it is represented enough that you don't have to be at rock bottom to seek counselling. And I think it's so important, because telling people that they have to hit rock bottom in order to receive help, or in order to go to counselling and have it not be a taboo subject, makes it taboo. Honestly, reading it all the time in books that I've hit rock bottom, now I have to be in counselling, or I really wish, I don't like people knowing that I'm in counselling, makes it a taboo subject. And it's the same with all mental health issues, and it is the one big thing. Make going to counselling and make talking about mental health not taboo by talking about it. Make it normal. Just normalise mental health and normalise going to counselling. As a counsellor, I cannot say it enough. There is nothing wrong with going to counselling. I'm a counsellor. I have good mental health. Right, well, it varies. But at the moment, I have quite a good mental health. But still, I will go to counselling once a month just as a bit of a check-in. I'm not at rock bottom. If I feel as though I need to go more than once, I will go more often. But I don't feel ashamed of going, and I don't agree that people should feel ashamed of going. And I think if that is discussed more, it will just make life a lot easier, because it will take away any taboo or any prejudice when it comes to counselling and therapy. And people can actually get the help they need without being ashamed to ask for help. And I think it is so important. Sorry for the rant. I'm going to move on to question 3. So question 3 is, do you read any non-YA contemporary books that talk about mental health or mental illness? So for example, classics or non-fiction. Really, not so much, because as I said to question 1, I don't really seek out any books relating to mental health. I just tend to come across them sometimes. A lot of the times it is in YA, because obviously that's where the majority of mental health comes from, and non-fiction, but I don't really go to non-fiction. It does come up surprisingly a high amount in thrillers, and when it's in a thriller, I always pay close attention to it to see whether it's done well, because I'm very big on mental health. If the book is perfect and amazing, but it handles the representation of a mental health issue badly, I would never recommend the book to somebody, because I think stuff like a badly handled mental health issue shouldn't be in the public eye, and it needs to be fixed. So I don't actively seek it out, again, as with question 1, but I read a lot of thrillers, and it does come up more often than you'd expect. So question 4 is, have you ever read a mental health book that has had a profound impact on you? And if so, why? And to be honest, I don't think I have. Like, I would love to have thought I have, but I feel like if it had had such an impact on me, it would have stuck with me. So if I was going to pick a book, it would be Ways to Live Forever by Sally Nichols. Now, I read this book years ago. I was still in school, so pre-2011 or pre-2012. I read it. I think I read it when it first came out. Old bookmark. So I read it when it first came out. So 2008. Is that right? Was I? Yeah, because I was around 13 then. So yeah, I read it 2008 or 2009. It was very, very soon after it came out. And it doesn't really deal with mental health, but it does in a way. Like, this story is about a young boy called Sam who has cancer, and he is dying. He can't be saved, it's terminal. So what he does is he creates a bucket list. Because he knows he's going to die, he has a list of things he wants to do, and he believes that if he does them, he will leave a legacy and a mark, and he will live forever in his family's memory because of the things he did. And to be honest, although it doesn't deal with mental health specifically, I think this book has always affected me, and no matter what, I've always wanted to keep it and read it over and over again, because having that knowledge that you're going to die at such a young age, I'm sure he's 11 or something like that. Hey, I even got the book signed, go me. He's very, very young, and he knows he's going to die, and that in itself brings about mental health problems, because that knowledge would not positively affect your mental health. It would very negatively affect it. So this book is kind of related to mental health, but not directly, but it has had a profound impact on me, because I can't imagine dealing with the things this boy had to deal with in this story. And it's one of those books that I keep time and time again, because although it's such a sad topic, it's so life affirming, and it reminds you to live your life while you can, and not to take anything for granted, and not be negative if life doesn't go the way you want it to. You've just got to take what you can and make it the best experience you can. And it always sticks with me, and I'm getting emotional talking about it, so I'm just going to move on. Question 5 is, who are some of your favourite creators who talk openly about mental health? I like it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I know it might be a bit cliche, but I have followed Victoria since my Booktube journey began. So it's been about 7 or 8 months now I've been following Victoria, and I've always admired that she spoke quite openly about her mental health. And very similarly with Nicole, she has always spoken about it, and I've got so much respect for these two ladies. and I am honoured to be a part of the Mental Healthathon, knowing that these two are in charge. And also Simone, really I found out about Simone because of the Mental Healthathon, and I'm such a big fan of hers now, but she's new, so I haven't really checked out too many of the videos of hers yet, but I do have them all backlisted. So if Simone talks about mental health like these two ladies do, then absolutely she's going to be one of my top as well. So the creators of the tag and the whole readathon, because I respect all three of them so much for doing something like this, because it's so important to do it. So thank you to them, and I absolutely think you're my favourites because you do talk about mental health and how important it is. So question 6 is, have you ever read a mental health book which negatively portrayed mental health, and if so, which? Honestly, no. I know for a fact if I read anything that negatively portrayed any aspect of mental health, I'd stop reading because it would anger me. There are some parts of mental health that even I don't know too much about, and if I don't know a lot about them, then maybe if it was negatively portrayed, I wouldn't know. But for all of these sorts of issues that I have a very good awareness and understanding of, I've never read anything negative about them that I'm aware of. And I'm really happy that I've not, because quite honestly, it's the last thing I want. So I'm very grateful. So question 7 is, what is your favourite book, series or genre to read when I'm struggling with my mental health? And to be honest, I go for a lot of thrillers, as you can probably tell. So maybe it's a thriller if I'm feeling quite down. But I also like something just an easy read. So when I'm feeling quite down, I know I go to YA quite a bit, because it's something so easy but still really, really enjoyable. So I think that's probably my main, either a thriller or a YA, because I know that I love them. Also, maybe sounds a bit strange, but I go to my James Patterson Alex Cross collection because that is my all-time favourite James Patterson book series. I think it's great, and Alex Cross is my hero and I love him. So reading his books always helps my mental health, despite the topics of the books. Question 8 is there any mental health book you wish your younger self could have read? And yes, it is called A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. Now, C.S. Lewis lost his wife, and when he did, he wrote a collection of letters that spoke about him dealing with that. And it was so honest and open because it really portrayed his anger and confusion at the world after losing somebody so close. And I really wish I'd read that when I was younger, because I experienced quite a lot of bereavement myself. I know some of my... I've lost quite a lot of people, and when I was younger, I was 16 and my best friend passed away. And then 6 months after that, my grandfather passed away. And then in between that, I had a lot of other friends and people that I was quite close to also pass away. Like within a 2-year period, I'd lost 10 people. And it did have quite a large effect on me. But my best friend and my granddad were within 6 months of each other, and they were two people who I was extremely close to, and I didn't really know how to cope with losing those two people, because my best friend had cystic fibrosis and he was very ill, and he was going to have an operation that was going to save his life. And on the day of the operation, he passed away. And then my granddad died of cancer 6 months after that. And I was just kind of building myself up from my friend's death, just to find out my granddad had also gone, and it took me right back down. So I feel as though reading a collection of letters that just told me how hard it was actually going to be, because although you know that grief is coming, realising firsthand how hard it is nothing you can ever prepare yourself for. And I feel as though if I'd have had those books or those letters or anything like that to read and fully understand, it wouldn't have helped, it wouldn't have made it manageable, but it would have made it easier, because I could have maybe prepared myself a bit more. And I feel so much stronger for reading the books, or the book. So I feel so much stronger for reading the book, so I do wish I could have read that before I had to experience it, to prepare myself in some way. So question 9 is there a mental health book which you are yet to get to, which you really want to? And the book is The Sky is Everywhere, and that is by Jandy Nelson. And this book follows a young girl who's 17 years old, and she relies so heavily on her sister, and then her sister dies abruptly, and this girl has to deal with life. She has to experience life experiences and go through her life without advice and support from her sister, which she's had for the first 17 years of her life. And it's about her coping with understanding how to go on when someone who you were so close to is no longer there. And I think similar to before, just reading that book, I think it would mean a lot to me, and I think it's going to be so powerful, and I really do just want to get to it. It's a book I only recently discovered, but it is one that I really do want to get to. So yeah. And question 10 basically just tag people who talk about mental health on their channel. I don't really like coming to tagging people about mental health because I don't want them to feel pressured to actually do a tag. So I'm just making this an open tag. If you want to talk about this, if you want to talk about mental health on Booktube, if you want to do the tag and you feel able to do that, then I am officially tagging you all in it, because I don't want you to feel as though you have to. So I'm leaving it to you. If you choose to, please feel free. So that is my tag. Hopefully it was a good start to the mental healthathon, and I can't wait to actually begin. Again, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to our creators, Simone, Nicole and Victoria, and just say a big thank you to them for doing what you are doing, because it is so important that you do what you do, and getting this readathon out there is so important. So thank you. So that is it from me. I post every Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, and then intermittently throughout the week. So until next time, I will see you later.